Start the music.
Sneaking up on our freedoms, destroying our health, shredding the Constitution, taking away our wealth. But we're the men and women following freedom's trail, following where the truth leads. We will prevail. Sneaking up on our freedoms, destroying our health, shredding the Constitution, taking away our wealth. But we're the men and women following freedom's trail, following where the truth leads. We will prevail. Good morning. This is Rima E. Laibow, MD. I'm the Medical Director of the Natural Solutions Foundation. With me is my co-host, Ralph Fusatola, JD, and you are listening to the Dr. Rima Reports. Good morning, Ralph.
Good morning, Dr. Rima. All right. Well, folks, welcome to the Dr. Rima Reports. You can listen to us on ustream.tv, search for Health Freedom Portal, or you can go directly to Health Freedom Portal, portal.org, where you'll find the Ustream stream. And by the way, when you turn the Ustream stream on, there will be an advertisement that Ustream puts on there for a few seconds, I think 20 seconds or so, but then we come on live. And you can also, at that healthfreedomportal.org webpage, also turn on the low bandwidth broadcast. The low bandwidth broadcast is for those of you who have dial-up service or do not want to see the video feed. Otherwise, you will see the video feed, which right now has a screen on it. We are experimenting a bit today, folks. Dr. Rima, you may, if you wish, start your video, and I can see if we can broadcast a live video feed of you and if General Bert's around, of General Bert. Yes. And we'll see whether we have the bandwidth to do it effectively from Chile. There she is. Let's see if we can put her on now. Folks, I'm going to move this over. Here we go. Wow, I can see you, Dr. Rima. Whoops. But I also just popped you off. Now, let me make sure I have the right part of the screen here. All right, we actually have you there. I see the window behind you. I see the wall behind you. All right, there you go.
Well, good morning, and good morning from a visual perspective. It is a somewhat overcast day, a little bit cool. I would say it's probably about 52, 54 degrees, something like that here in Chile. It might rain later on, but probably won't. Chile has a very, very mild winter so far. We're at the beginning of winter, the shoulder, if you will, the autumn. And it's really very beautiful here. Now, I want to show you all, because you haven't seen it on video yet. Why haven't you seen it on video yet? Because I just figured out how to use the new video program that my new computer, my new laptop works with. And so I want to show you what you will see in a lot of videos, because my plan today is to edit lots of videos and get them up. This is a Geiger counter. This is called an identifier, and I don't know how clearly you can see it right now. This identifier gives me the opportunity to find out what the radiation level is. Right now, we're at about 195 counts per second of cosmic radiation, gamma radiation, or Fukushima, or other reactor radiation. And the levels that we've been measuring here in Chile, can you see that? Yes, you can. The levels that we've been measuring, it's reversed.
Why are there two screens?
8.85 right now, 8.22. You'll have to do mirror reading if you want to figure that out. These are very low radiation levels. We're at about 217 counts per second, well below U.S. background, before Fukushima.
That should be turned on.
Now, what is U.S. background today? I will be in the United States next week, and I will let you know what background radiation is. On the west coast of the United States, I will be there briefly. I hope this will be my last trip to the United States because of the radiation, if nothing else. You see, as you've heard us say, Fukushima will get worse and worse and worse. I'm going to turn this off now because we've established that it's a very low radiation environment. We've measured food, we've measured building materials, we've measured the top of a mountain, a 10,000 foot high mountain, where I expected the radiation to be higher because you have less filtration from the air, from materials, and in fact the radiation was lower. It was quite surprising. That mountain is called Valle Nevada, and it's Valle Nevado, D-O, and it's the most developed and advanced ski area in the southern hemisphere. Whatever you want is available here except radiation. And interestingly, in Chile, GMOs may not be used in the human food supply for anything made in Chile. Chile has very, very high food standards. People say, well, what about Argentina? Let me tell you a story. One of the people who's on this trip with us in order to see what this area of the world is like for himself and for his family has a friend who's in the same profession that he is, drilling, because he's a well driller, drilling in Argentina. He got a contract, he hired a crew, he brought his rig down, which is quite a big deal. These are major pieces of equipment. Maybe he's got more than one rig, I don't know. And now, because of the chaotic situation in Argentina, he can only exchange 100 pesos or $100 of money a day. So how do you pay your crew when the maximum number of pesos you can exchange for is the equivalent of $100 a day, $700 a week? Just one of the many peculiarities that you might not expect before you go someplace. So it's very important to have a team on the ground doing your scouting work for you. It's very important to have people who are interested in the same things you are and looking at the same aspects of life that you are and taking the time and energy to investigate for you, and that's what we're doing. And yes, Santiago is very pleasant, but this is hard work. We're not sleeping in our own beds. It's expensive, and oh, by the way, if you value what we do, you really need to be donating. You really need to go to www.healthfreedomusa.org and make a donation. $1, $100, $5, $5,000, whatever you feel our work is worth, whatever you feel your pocketbook can allow out for this partnership that we have, in which we're doing things that you need and you're supporting us by disseminating information, by carefully considering and changing your choices on the basis of the information that you learn, for instance, not vaccinating your kids, and you also donate. Right now, desperately need your donations. We're going to have to pay our bills at the end of this month. It's not going to be easy. From a fiscal point of view, we certainly shouldn't be here. From a necessity point of view, we have no choice but to be here. That's what we do. We do this for you. If you value it, you need to show that by your actions, which includes donation. It's that simple. If you have assets that allow you to make an investment, then we ask you to help fund the tipping point projects that we are doing to push back the globalist agenda. And the way to do that is to go to www.fundfornaturalsolutions, F-U-N-D, fundfornaturalsolutions.org. Fill in the questionnaire, read the material, of course. Fill in the questionnaire, email it to Ralph at the provided email, and then Ralph, under SEC regulations, will be able to send you the private placement memorandum. And
That's right, Dr. Rima. Not only will I send the private placement memorandum, but I'll also send a group of supporting documents. For example, that wonderful memoranda that you put together called the Tipping Point Projects. And in addition to that, a PowerPoint presentation on the overall fund. And in addition to that, some spreadsheets and an extended executive summary of the part of the plan that has to do with the compounding pharmacy. So because we as an organization have very specific plans, we have what Dr. Rima alluded to earlier, the Tipping Point Projects. And I think
those tipping point projects are life-saving for you. Maybe you can invest, maybe you can't. It doesn't matter. It's still going to impact your life. Now, if you're investing in a typical company, a widget manufacturing company, the only way your life changes is if more widgets get sold and you get dividends or other benefits. You can sell your shares for more than you paid for the widget company. Or if fewer widgets get sold, or if a hostile takeover occurs, your pocketbook is affected. Widgets up, good, good, good. Widgets down, bad, bad, bad. But your life doesn't change because instead of buying widgets, you could have bought a company, shares in a company that makes watches. You know, it doesn't matter in terms of the health of your children, the longevity of your children. It doesn't matter in terms of the quality of your food. But if you invest, or if you bring people in to invest, and of course we will reward you with a fee as permitted by the SEC, with a commission. We're not allowed to call it commission. Sorry. What do we call it, Ralph? What are we allowed to call it?
We can provide finder's fees and other rewards.
We can provide finder's fees and other rewards. That means we get to say thank you financially to the people who bring us investors. That's a good thing. The investors trust in us and faith in us, or your faith and trust, if you're not an investor, by bringing your friends or your relatives or your associates and putting them in contact with us so they can become investors, and of course we will reward you with a finder's fee. The investments that are made will help to assure that you and your children survive. These are not idle widget-based investments. These are the tipping point investments, the tipping point projects that can quite literally save your life. Let's talk about food. The food you're eating is killing you. First of all, it was killing you before Fukushima because of the chemicals. Industrial food is designed to make huge profits for the chemical companies and the biotech companies and the pharmaceutical companies. It's designed to make huge profits by making you ill. Designed. And by, of course, eventually eliminating you, it fulfills the genocidal agenda. Well, and of course making you infertile, as in the infertility gene in the corn. And oh, by the way, remember back in 2005, 2006, 2007, we were talking about the Syngenta gene in corn, which was commercialized. Well, now it's all over the internet. Contraception in your corn was the latest email that I received about this. As always, the Natural Solutions Foundation identifies the issues and the realities early, and then the next set of realities. And in a couple of years, 4 years, whatever, 5 years, people start picking up on it. This is 2012. We were talking about this in 2005. That's 7 years that we've been telling people that sterility comes packaged in corn. You've heard us say this before. Okay, do you want to feed that to your children or your neighbor's children? Do you want to collapse the population based on the high fructose corn syrup and the corn meal and the corn starch? Do you really? Is that what you want? Even if you're not of reproductive age, is that what you want happening to your body and everybody else's body? Of course not. So we need clean food to prevent that and all the other food cataclysms, don't we? Of course we do. Now, that's what we're doing. We're identifying in each of these tipping points the globalists' agenda tools, the items that they're using to kill us, to dominate us, to enslave us, to kill your children, and make sure that you don't have any more children, or your children don't have any more children, to collapse the population. We identify their tools, and then we stand them on their head. We invert them, and we use them for our good. For instance, food. They're using food to kill us, well and good. We will create a food stream. Excuse me. I need a sip of Valley of the Moon coffee. Ordinarily, I have it at home in Panama in my own Valley of the Moon mug. Now I have it in a stainless steel, not plastic, travel mug.
All right, Dr. Rima, this is a good moment for an advertisement for Valley of the Moon coffee. I'm having some Valley of the Moon as well. We actually celebrated Millie's birthday yesterday by making some of our secret stash of Valley of the Moon coffee, and and I reheated some this morning, so it's really good.
Pull out the good stuff. The guests are gone.
That's right. You got it. But it is great coffee, folks, and you know it's really all natural and toxin free, and there's a difference. There's a difference between the way you react even to so-called organic coffee, which is allowed to have all sorts of chemical additives, and truly all-natural coffee. The distinction that we have to make here between truly all-natural and what they call organic is important, because the food that Dr. Rima and General Burt are in Chile right now trying to source is going to be truly all-natural, truly toxin-free, and low radiation. We don't say radiation-free, you know, not on this planet, not anymore, but it is possible to gain low radiation food.
Absolutely. And since the globalists want to use food to kill you, it's a natural project for us to use investment to create a food supply that sustains you. I'm going to take a moment. Bert, can I have some more Valley of the Moon coffee? I want this, and I need more. Okay.
Boy, I wish I had a 2-star general getting me coffee in the morning.
Hey, when I met General Burt, I didn't know how many stars he had. I said to him, this is within hours of meeting him, and I said to him, look, I don't know how many stars you have, and I don't care, but I want to make one thing perfectly clear. He said, what's that? I said, I have one more. He said, yes, ma'am. And I thought, whoa, there's something to be said for this hierarchy stuff.
Everybody knows who has ever been married that the only answer to the wife is, yes, ma'am.
You got it, General Burt.
I wasn't.
Only answer is, yes, ma'am.
I wasn't his wife, but we were quite thoroughly bonded. And I was an anti-war activist, and I was utterly, utterly horrified by even meeting a general, let alone instantly falling in love with him, which is what happened. It's a pretty weird story.
Actually, everybody instantly falls in love with Bert, so you know.
That's true. That's a very good point. Most people don't leap into his arms on first meeting. But
This is true.
You know, he'd have a really sore back if everybody did.
Well, you know, one of the things we can do at this program, we don't, obviously, folks, we don't have a special guest other than Bert and Rima. We do? Oh, we do. Tell me.
Thank you. Professor Pereira. Professor Pereira is going to be talking to us about the wholeness of a sustainable planet.
Oh,
and I
great.
his phone number, and if he's listening, he's probably a little confused. Hello, Dr. Tony. We're going to be calling you in about 10 minutes, and
Okay.
we're going to be bringing you on. Do you have his number? Because I can Skype
No,
it to you.
Skype it to me, please, and then I will. We're going to do him by telephone. Good, we can do that. We also have a new video that was posted within the past, I guess, 24 hours or so, in which Dr. Rima takes her Geiger counter and begins to do some exploration in the city of Santiago. And I think that's a nice little video for you all to watch. You know, you can go to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/natural solutions, of course, and you'll find that as the most recently posted, the top video.
Let me find. Ralph, it's your preference. I have Dr. Tony's number, which I can Skype to you right now, or we can add him by Skype chat.
Now, if we add him by Skype chat, your video stream will stop because of the nature of our Skype connection, or which is okay, or we can get him on the phone. The other alternative is I have various video still images that we'll be able to play and put on while you're all talking. So it's your choice.
Well, why don't we call him on the phone?
Okay.
Because I think the video adds a nice touch. We don't have enough bandwidth in Panama, but in Chile, we have enough bandwidth.
Oh, by the way, the video looks good. I want you to know that. Excellent looking video. All right, yes.
Thank you.
All right.
So, I think, Dr. Tony, I know you're listening. We're going to try calling you on the phone.
I'm going to do that right now.
Professor Pereira is a professor at the University of Texas, Beaumont, and he understands the web. Not talking about the internet web, which, by the way, I don't understand. No idea how this technology so actually works. But there is web.
There we
The
go.
current subscriber you have called is not available.
Oh,
There's a message after the tone.
I don't know what's going on.
Okay,
Hey, Tony, we need you on the phone for the
Why
radio
don't
program.
we wait a couple of minutes and let me
Yeah.
finish what I'm saying.
Go ahead.
Distracted, okay? There is a great value placed in the Western world on linear thinking. A precedes B, which precedes C, which precedes D. D is dependent on C, which is based on B, which rests in A. That's left brain, really good stuff if you want to build a machine, if you want to create a simple device or a simple system, and it's emotionless, which is fine in certain circumstances. If you're doing mathematics, you probably want to get the same answer to 2 + 2 = something or other, whether you're depressed, whether you're happy, whether it's your kid's birthday. It shouldn't matter. It should be emotionless as to what the outcome of that kind of problem is. But that's not how the world works solely. It's not the only way the world works, because the world is a web. Everything is connected to everything else. Whether your perspective is spiritual and you talk about God having his eye on the sparrow, which is a way of saying everything is connected, or whether your perspective is a systems analyst way of looking at the world, or whether your perspective is just a deep understanding that everything is connected to everything. If you don't understand that, you're going to screw up. If you don't understand that, you're going to build a nuclear power plant and say, well, you know, I got a nuclear system and it works, and we got some fail-safe systems, and not think about the impact of the effluent on the genes of the fish, on the people downriver, not think about what happens when you have to dispose of the plutonium, not think about the fact that the energy that you're creating is so expensive that you're crumbling the underbelly of the society economically, not think about the environment as if it's a connected web. Because the truth of the matter is, just as with the brain, just as with the human body, just as with any other subunit of the web, when you pull on one string, one little factor, the configuration of the whole alters. The shape of the whole changes. So that if I'm treating somebody's, let's say, inability to sleep at night, I can give them a sleeping pill. That's linear. And it's stupid. I can also find out why they're not sleeping at a psychological, emotional, biochemical, endocrinological, toxicological, or whatever level. And then I pull on that string, I detox them, and everything else that's affected that they weren't coming to see me about also gets better. And we create wholeness. That's why the word holistic exists. It's a whole, W-H-O-L-E, a wholeness. And the world has to be put back together, my friends, in a holistic way. There are very few people who can think about waste management, food resources, energy, transportation, communication, sociology, etc., etc. Put them together and create a whole pattern for sustainability. One of those people is Professor Pereira. He's a friend. He's a valued colleague. I said to him yesterday, I need a comprehensive proposal, Dr. Tony, for how to put the world back together again, because maybe, just maybe, a significant source of funding, and I'm talking about really significant source of funding, might be interested in such a proposal. Can you do that? He said, of course. And he's doing it. I said, send it to me ASAP. He said, sure. Thank you for asking me to do that, because he's already got the information ready. He's already got the whole web system ready to go. He said, I've got 5 papers on that. I said, great. Chunk them down, put them together. I need the proposal. And he's done. That's what wholeness means. It means seeing every aspect, tying to, pulling on all of the factors and reshaping the whole through proper application of impact where it needs to be in a way that promotes health and fullness and wholeness for life and for sustainability. We treasure our connection with Professor Pereira. Now the question is, can we implement our connection with Professor Pereira? Ralph, what are we going to do?
I'm redialing. We'll see.
No time.
Modern communication is amazing, but it's also frustrating. And we'll see what happens. That is definitely the same phone number. Okay, just to double check, make sure I've dialed the right number. Gosh, can you try to reach him on Skype?
Why don't you add him to this? Everybody knows what I look like. This is what I look like if I post my picture to go away. I
don't think your picture will go away. I think actually it may very well continue while you're on the other Skype window.
But can you...
Oh, you're going to try to call him on Skype. Okay, go ahead.
Add him to the chat.
Oh, I could add him to... Well, if I do that, we're going to lose the video, which is okay.
I don't know what I look like.
That's it. Okay, let me see if I can add him to the chat.
Sure.
Add people to this call. Okay, and I believe he's under Tony. I believe.
I will Skype you his name. Okay, just sent it to you. That's his Skype name.
Oh, that's what it is. Right, I remember that now.
And that's a very important part. Folks, you have no idea what we're talking about. It's okay.
I'm sorry to say I don't have him on my... I think you may have to add him to the call. I don't have him.
Can I add him?
You should be able to.
Add people to this call.
Yeah.
All righty.
Communications. Communications is key. Everything we do here at Natural Solutions Foundation is about communicating solutions. Solutions is our middle name, but it appears that communications is the unspoken word. And we need these. We have various methods of communication, and every one of those methods of communication costs us money. I have to say that. It's my turn now to talk about that issue while we try to reach Professor Pereira. We have to every month. We have to pay Salsa Labs, that runs Democracy in Action, which is the system that allows you to send messages to your congresspeople. Every month we have to pay for the secure. There we go. There he is.
There you are. Well, hello. This is Rima, and with me is Ralph. And how are you, Professor Pereira? Can you hear us? Okay. Hello?
Yeah.
Are you?
Ralph is here.
Yes, but what about Professor Pereira?
I don't know.
Okay.
He was. You need to recall him.
I need to recall him. Okay.
He's definitely online.
The joys of live radio. Okay, let me call him again.
She's all washed out. Why did that happen?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now we can hear you.
How are you, Professor Pereira?
Doing good, thanks. And you, Dr. Rima?
Outstanding. I'm in a low radiation zone. You're not.
Why is it like
I'm
that?
sure I am. I'm not.
No, you're not.
Oh, it's frozen. It's this image.
How about you, Dr. Pusitola?
I'm doing really fine. Good to hear your voice. We didn't have a chance. We were all supposed to meet and have dinner together when Dr. Ream and General Burt and I were last in Houston, and we were waiting at this very interesting place, and we finally were able to reach Dr. Pereira on via Skype, and it turned out that a truck carrying ethanol had turned over and blocked the highway, making it impossible for him to travel from one city to another in Texas, and it was the second time that it happened in just a couple of months. So I guess ethanol has its upsides and its downsides, and you're the person who can tell us the most about those sort of exchanges that we have to make with the limited resources we have around us. So this is going to be an exciting discussion.
Well, let's talk about what would happen, Professor Pereira, if I had the special batteries that I require for my magic wand, which are not available. I've been looking. And I could get it powered up, tap you on the forehead, and make you the king of putting the world back together. If I could give you the power to create a truly sustainable world, what would you do? Remember, in this thought experiment, you have all of the resources you need. You have all of the clearances and government permissions, and we've gotten all of the roadblocks out of the way. So what would you do to create a truly sustainable, truly whole, integrated system for this troubled planet of ours?
Now, while you have all the political permission to do what needs to be done, you are, however, still constrained by the laws of nature. So,
yes,
go ahead.
Yes, the laws of physics as they operate in this universe.
Got it.
That's a great point. The last point is a great point, because we can't overturn them, try as we may, and goodness knows we have been trying since Faust and Gata and
Yes.
all.
For those of you,
We've been-
for those
for
of
those of you,
For those of you who do not know, the science of alchemy, which has attracted the attention of the curious and the persistent for a very long time, is designed to transmute metal or transmute material into ultimately gold. And now we do transmute metal into gold. We transmute one element into another in nuclear reactors. So the objective has been achieved, but as Faust found to his great suffering, the price was entirely too high. And that's what Professor Pereira, who understands literature as well as energy, was talking about. I'm sorry, please go on, Professor Pereira.
What a great question. It is really the concern of our lifetime. It is the concern of our society. It's a great question. There are four elements, four things four components that are required to us. Let's start with some principles. As you mentioned, Rolf, we have to respect the laws of nature, and this is just not superfluous consideration. It's just not a vain consideration. We need to those laws of nature. They show up in elements that we entirely use. We use air, we use water, we use soil, we use the plants and animals. Not the other way around. Never make that mistake. And that's the mistake we're making. We think that we are it and the other things are just non-essential. That's the other way around. We can go and disappear, and that's not a problem for the plants and animals and things that we depend on. And on the other way around, they don't depend on us, not at all. We depend on the air that we breathe. We depend on the water that we drink. We depend on the soil that supports us. And this is very ancient wisdom that hasn't percolated, has disappeared in the walls of greed and arrogance and hubris. That's a sad situation. So we have to go back to the source. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the second point is of no consequence. It's a futile attempt to go at the end, and once the damage is done, try to repair that damage or try to find solutions for the damage. Pretty much what happens to our oceans, what happens to our forests, what happens to our waste management, in case that we pile up mountains of waste and then we go try to build an incinerator, and that incinerator produces gases and poisons and the pollutants that was there in the first place that we have to deal again with. So solutions at the end are no solutions, are not even band-aids, are complete disasters. So we have to start from the beginning. The energy that we need, it can be procured directly from the sun, from the wind, which is another form of sun energy, and from geothermal when it is available. That's the energy that is still stored inside of the earth, of the crust, accessible at low depth, in some cases higher depth, and hydro when it's available from rivers and streams. However, we have to be careful with hydro because we dam the rivers too much, we interrupt the flow, we destroy the watershed and things of that nature. So there's been a reversal. There are precautions that can be taken on hydro in order not to destroy vital parts of watershed that happens in Oregon, all along the west coast of the United States and on the east coast as well, many other parts of the world. That's for energy. For water, water can it's a problem. Many parts of the world, only a very low percentage of the water is sweet and drinkable. I believe it's 3% of the total amount of the water that's available on the planet, and only 1% of that is directly available to us. Um, we don't our water systems. Let's go back to the energy. Let's go back to the energy. Our energy systems are designed wrong from the start. We get concentrated energy that is also concentrated energy from the sun, from coal, fossil fuels, um, natural gas. That energy is transformed, and notice that I don't use the word created or generated. The energy is transformed in from one form, which is solar energy, into from a process of photosynthesis. It's accumulated for millions of years, according to my good professor, a good friend, Professor Cornell University. Takes the process, is a geologic process, which is takes about 700 million years for that, and it happens just at the right depth in the crust, in the Earth's crust, at the right pressure, at the right temperature, with the right conditions. If it is too low, oil is not formed. If it is gas is formed. If it is too deep, then coal is I'm sorry, the other way around. If it is too low, coal is formed. If it is too deep, gas is formed. The whole thing gasifies, and then gas is formed. It has to be at the right. It has to be accumulated, and it's a process that takes an incredible amount of time. It's just impossible for us to think in those terms, in terms of 1 year or 2 years or 10 years. That doesn't happen. Then it's the low fruits in the tree. We just go and pick up those things and burn them, and then the result CO2 goes into the atmosphere, concentrates very rapidly. It has been in the last 100 years or so. So instead of doing all of that, we can use the energy directly from the sun in 1 hour. In 1 hour, listen to this very carefully, anybody that is listening. In 1 hour, the planet receives from the sun the same amount of energy that we burn in 1 year from all sources, or procure all the energy that we procure from coal, from gas, from oil, from nuclear reactors, about 10%, from hydro, from anything else. We get that from the sun in 1 hour. Now, are we going to put solar panels on everything that we can think of? No, we don't need to. We don't need to cover the whole planet in solar panels. A very small amount. We can start by putting them on tops of buildings, decentralizing the grid, putting them everywhere on every home. Is it economically feasible? Yes, it is. In most cases, what happens is that the homeowner calls the public utility company, calls the power company, and asks them for solar panels, and he gets and their reply is, show me your electric bill, or let me take a look at your account, then I'll take a look at your electric bill. And based on that, they design the solar system, and the homeowner gets some $30,000 or $40,000, $50,000, $70,000 solar panel system, and the homeowner balks at that and says, well, it's too much, because they don't do their own work. You go into your appliances, you go into your energy systems in your home, and you do what's called an energy audit. And you do that one time, you do that two times, and you replace your appliances by more efficient appliances. You reduce your load. And you do that, you go through this process a couple of times until you get it right. And then you design your solar system, and then you will see that your price from $30,000 comes down to $10,000. And we need incentives, and state incentives, and federal incentives. Then it becomes viable. Now, most people don't know.
You know, this is tremendously important. Let me interrupt you, Professor Pereira. You are an expert in this area, and you are sharing enormously helpful, practical information, far more practical than turn off a couple of light bulbs, save the earth nonsense. May I ask you, I know that you have written this, would you turn what you just said and the other wisdom that you have about sustainable living within the system that we have, this is before you activate the magical powers that I've given you with my special fairy godmother wand, which you haven't used yet, can you turn this into an ebook for us that we can make available to people over the internet whose magic we all appreciate and whose workings I do not understand? Is this possible?
It's possible this is entirely possible, and it is happening already.
Yeah, but can you turn it into an ebook for us? A Natural Solutions Foundation energy self-sustainability tactics through these kinds of things that you're talking about. I'd love to send this out to people as an ebook.
That would be fantastic. Yes,
Excellent.
That would be fantastic. Either there or a set of audio clippings or clippings from this show.
Well, the nice thing about the ebook concept is that it can include it can include video, it can include audio, it can include images, and writing. Ebooks are multidimensional, and it can link into the internet because the person is downloading them on a computer, so they can have links, and they can be quite multidimensional. So I think that's wonderful. View it as a webinar.
Let's do it.
View it as a webinar.
Let's do it. We're going that direction. Let's do it. No doubt. Now, let's also use the magic wand. Let's use the magic wand. And 1, 2, 3, kaboom! Here it is. And Lollapalooza. It happens already in Germany. For 28 years, Dr. Hermann Scheer, which I had the great pleasure to meet while he was alive, and invited him to UCLA for a talk. He was a physicist, a PhD, very, very knowledgeable person, extremely knowledgeable. And he worked assiduously. He worked very hard to have laws passed in Germany. Now he was an elected member of the parliament. It's called the Bundestag. He was for 28 years, and he put laws together with incentives and what's called the feed-in tariff. Now, if you look at your electric bill, you will see a thing in there which is a price per kilowatt hour, and that's the price that we pay for energy. And kilowatt hour is from state to state from 7 cents to 13, 14 cents now in California, and it's still going up. It's going at least 10% up every year. That's the amount that we pay for the energy that we buy. Now, in Germany, if you convert solar energy on top of your home with a solar panel or wind, and you sell it to the grid, you don't get 7 or 10 cents per kilowatt hour. You don't get 20 cents per kilowatt hour. You don't get 40 cents per kilowatt hour. You don't get 80 cents per kilowatt hour, or you get 85 or 86 cents per kilowatt hour.
How is that economically feasible?
They put the money to do that. They put the money from the general revenue from the state of Germany, from the country, because they consider that, and they convince. We all know how difficult it is to convince somebody. I have trouble convincing someone. Y'all have trouble convincing someone and getting them to understand the fine points and whatnot. He convinced an entire country. How do you do that?
Well, on the first level, it has to be a country that actually has real resources to invest. That is, Germans were actually saving money. They were actually, right?
They figured out that the money that they were spending, and this comes on a legislation that came in about 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago.
Oh.
Now, in Germany,
on purpose?
that they were going to phase out, listen to this, they were going to phase out all fossil fuels and nuclear power in the next 2 decades, so about 2020. This is extraordinary. Mostly, it's not in the news. Check it out, anybody. Without doubting Thomas, check it out. Go on the net. And this has become legislation already for the 20 countries of the EU, of the European Union. And recently, while he was still alive, he passed in the last year or so. Ontario, Canada, the province asked him, could you please also write those laws and make them to fit to the state of Ontario, so we can pass them in here too. And so we did, and they passed them out. And Ontario is going on the same track of giving incentives directly to the population in order to install themselves and generate and produce and convert solar energy or wind energy or any type of energy into that can be go directly to the grid. Now this is only for energy, and that's the beginning of a sustainable society. Well, we can do it, and we need to stop relying on these corporations that come. We had the experience in California. We had Enron coming in and laughing about the tapes that exist. That they were laughing on the phone, saying, "Oh, the poor lady in Pasadena now we're gonna take her to the cleaners," and they took us to the cleaners in California for $9 billion that we will never see. Apparently, the papers were buried in Building 7. That was the excuse. We'll never see those again. Now, this is only for energy. Now, water. Water is also.
Of course, Dr. Pereira, there is a lesson to be learned in what happened in California with Enron and with the manipulation of the energy market, and that is exactly dovetails with what you've been saying. The more centralized an energy system is, the more subject it is to manipulation. A totally decentralized energy system that relies on the energy that falls on our homes, for example, on our roofs, is politically a game changer. And I think that we have to always be aware of that level of.
There's much to be said about that. There's a sense of ownership. There's a sense of pride. There's a sense of that you are in control. That there's a sense that you're not hopeless with your life. There's a sense that you have your own power, your own energy, even if the hurricane strikes or everything.
It's more than that. It's way beyond that.
There is a incredible sense of self-respect and self-pride in that.
It goes beyond that. It goes to a level of real autonomy. Real autonomy. Because if we are wired into these large systems, then the large systems control our behavior, and so this is such an important step in the right direction. Buckminster Fuller, I think, saw some of that in some of his later stuff, and his view of how things could come to pass. He certainly saw the new technologies and communication that we're dealing with, the internet and the social media, and he said that these new communications technologies would make the secret government impossible.
Which is why the secret government wishes to kill these new communication technologies. I want to make the point that when people are empowered in one area, this is part of the web thinking. When people are empowered in one area and they no longer are controlled by inauthentic authority, let's say huge energy grids, and instead they're producing their own energy through, let's say, solar technology, through methane, through any number of ways. When that happens, they begin to notice that there are other areas of their lives where inauthentic authority doesn't feel normal anymore. They begin to notice that they are, in fact, autonomous beings, capable of interdependency, capable of relatedness, capable of choice. And all of a sudden, you have people waking up. Sometimes it's through the energy issues, sometimes it's through the health issues, sometimes it's through the food issues, sometimes it's through the vaccine, whatever it is. Once people start waking up in one area, typically the process is that everything else looks different. Everything else begins to be a subject for examination and for choice making. Now that's an incredible empowerment process. For example, in my medical practice, when I use neurobiofeedback with someone and they have a profound awakening that makes their disease or disorder go away, whether it's cancer or cardiovascular disease or depression or schizophrenia or scleroderma or whatever, and this has all happened under my hands. There's nothing magic about this process. It's teachable and repeatable. So when they come together and they pull on the strings of that web and their body heals or their mind heals, what happens, or their addiction goes away, what happens is that they are no longer controllable by inauthentic authority in any area. Hell on their marriages, I gotta tell you. So we're talking about changing behavior, changing practice, changing choice, and changing perception at a profound level. It's not just a matter of cutting your electric bill. Would you agree with that, Ralph and Professor Pereira?
No, totally. I especially like that inappropriate authority. That's brilliant. That's exactly the point.
Boy, we need someone to make a transcript of this discussion. You two are really giving us ideas at such a rapid fire rate. It's extraordinary.
It's they assume that role and give it away, and it's been doing it already comes from a long time ago from the pack. We give the authority to the alpha male or to the alpha female, and it's inbred in us to some point. But we have to assume responsibility. We have to assume as individuals, and that inappropriate authority is a fantastic phrase.
Thank you. We need a volunteer who likes what they're hearing here and who wants to make a transcript. Contact us at, let's use your email, Ralph, R-A-L-P-H, at Fund for Natural Solutions, one word, fundfornaturalsolutions.org, and tell us that you'd like to transcribe this, and we'll add this to the ebook. This is what we're doing, is talking an ebook. I didn't realize it until you pointed that out, Ralph, but that's what's happening.
Exactly.
That's a great idea, and I also have been looking. Google has been doing quite a bit into language translation and put it directly into text. And I don't know if they came up with an app that actually you put in the audio stream of a program like this or any other recording, MP3 or whatnot, and put it directly into an application that actually produces text. Not perfect, probably not 100%, but it can be edited in a very small amount of time, less than what it takes.
Yeah, our producer Jeff was just telling me that he believes After Effects may have a module to do that as well. So yes, let's get you and Jeff together on finding the right program. Right, Jeff?
It's that or Premiere Pro, something like that.
All right. Wow. So you see, folks, we are literally, this has now become a webinar in sustainability. And it was very interesting to talk about the physical constraints on sustainability. because in the famous last two paragraphs of Ludwig von Mises's Human Action, he discusses the constraints on human action. And of course, the first of those constraints is physical law. But he calls the second of the constraints the psychological. And then the last of them is what he calls the economical. But it is interesting that you have to start with the physical. And we've been talking about that, and we've been talking about sustainability on that level. We've also been talking about sustainability on a political level, which is part of the psychological. And I think that sustainability goes on every level. Each individual makes choices about their lives that will make that life more or less sustainable.
That is possible. I want to amplify that. It's really easy to make choices that make your life less sustainable.
Oh, yeah.
Think about fast foods. Think about smoking. Think about driving without a seatbelt on. Think about not thinking about what's going on. Those are choices that make your life a whole lot less sustainable. So you have that choice. You can always decide that you want to be stupid. You can always decide that you want to be blind and deaf and dumb, and you want to be in a coma and go about numbing yourself. You've always got that option. We don't happen to think it's a particularly good option, but it's your option. You want to do that, go ahead. The question is, what happens when you don't want to make those choices? Well, you listen to this kind of discussion and you share the archives with other people, and you ask everybody you can reach to enter their email in www.generalbert, that's GeneralBert.com, and you ask them to get into the information flow about the radiation. Now, what's happening is that we're sending out a continuing stream of special information that only the people who have signed up at GeneralBert.com can access. And it's pretty important. We're telling you the truth about one of the most disastrous of genocidal, one of the most immediately disastrous of the genocidal technologies. All of the genocidal technologies are disastrous, but one of the most immediately disastrous is in fact nuclear power. So let's go back to this discussion. By the way, that's www.generalbert.com. Let's go back to this discussion. The magic wand is pulsing and ready for you to use. You believe, Professor Pereira, and our guest is Dr. Anthony Pereira of the University of Texas at Beaumont. You believe that... Dr. Tony, okay. You believe, Dr. Tony, that solar power can be used economically, it can be used practically, and it can be used in such a widespread way that we can, in fact, meet our energy needs without destroying the planet by or destroying the economy because of the battery storage problems and so on. You believe that this is a workable solution?
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. In 1 year, we got 8,000 times the amount directly from the sun in solar energy, and this is we got many thousands of times what actually we produce. We produce the world converts, and the word producing or generating is incorrect. Convert oil, gas, power from the rivers, which is potential power, potential energy, into energy that we use, into electrical energy or mechanical energy that we use, and from all of the sources that we currently use, oil, gas, coal, hydro, nuclear, those are the main sources. We in 1 hour we get it from the sun for the entire year in 1 hour. Now, are we going to be greedy and the little greedy human beings that we have been and put solar panels everywhere? No. The grass still needs to grow. It needs sunlight. The trees still need to grow. They need sunlight. The oceans and the phytoplankton that make out 40% of the oxygen that every one of us here and on the planet and are listening to this program, 40% of that oxygen comes from the photosynthesis conversion done in phytoplankton. Very, very small, tiny creatures. And again, the importance and the critical importance and the critical deep respect that we must have for those things that plants and animals work very hard for us. Trees generate about 60% of the oxygen that we're breathing right now, all of us. And that's the deep respect that we need to have. That's on energy alone. Now, the water systems that we have, they work this way. It rains, the water comes down tiptoes on the roof. It goes down the gutter. It goes down to a big channel that is untreated. It's separate. We have a dual system of wastewater and what we call sewer. And it goes directly into that channel, dumps directly into the next lake or ocean or river or bay or whatever is nearby, untreated, because the volumes are big and it's not possible to, except for very, very special few cases that's done around the country and around the world, that goes out. The water that we use in the home for washing, bathing, in the restrooms is all mixed up together. Now you just mix up, there's two types of water. There's black water and gray water. Black water comes in contact with human waste, and there are pathogens in the human waste that are always present, even in healthy persons like ourselves. They're always present. E. coli is always there, cholera is always there. Those can be lethal, and they are lethal, and we need to treat them again with the same respect that they deserve, because after all, they can kill us. And once all of that water, the gray water, which comes from the sink, washing the hands, washing the lettuce, taking a shower, if that gray water comes in contact to the black water, which is the gray water is much, it's a large percentage. All of the two come together, then everything becomes black water. And according to our own perfect system that we have, perfect between quotes, then everything needs to be treated and doused with chlorine or other forms. Sweden has changed to a different process, and the reason for that is because chlorine is an allergen from the group in the periodic table. It's very, very active because of the electrons that it has in the valence layer, in the outer layer of the atom, and it's either gives electrons or takes electrons. In chemistry, chlorine is known as a promiscuous element because it exchanges the electrons so rapidly, and just by putting chlorine in the water, and water is never water. There is carbon, there is nitrogen, there is other elements in there. It's never pure water, and especially in water that is gray water or wastewater. And chlorine gets into that carbon. It generates it's called triohalogens. Those chlorinated halogens. 200 of them are known to be carcinogen, now listed by the EPA. They form naturally just by putting chlorine in the water. They form naturally. And one of them is the most potent, the poison known to humanity. It's dioxin. And that one spoon of dioxin is so toxic that one spoon of dioxin, pure dioxin, if it was given to taken in little pieces and given to every single human being on the planet, you will kill them all. That's as poisonous as it is. That's formed naturally. It's just by putting chlorine in the wash to disinfect things, to use it in the washing machine and whatnot, and in pulp, making paper, to bleach paper, generates a huge quantity of that. That's one of the reasons that Sweden 20 years ago decided to revert to ozone to purify water instead of chlorine, because it causes more problems than it solves. And the city of recently, the city of in Maryland, right there at the beginning of the Chesapeake Bay, they decided also to stop the use of chlorine, and other cities are following suit. So this system, all of the water comes from the rain, comes from the roof, goes into the gutter, and at the end of the month, the mayor comes with a piece of paper they call a bill and say, here's your bill because we took care of your problem. And that does not need to be. We can collect that rainwater. We can put it in cisterns. The rainwater that comes from down is still very pure. Well, now there's problems with Fukushima and things of that nature. So it's throwing an incredible imbalance, all of those situations. But it's still very pure, or it can be cleaned. It can be passed through a 20 micron filter, well, 1 micron filter, even smaller, in order to trap some of those very, very small particles that come from disasters like the one in Fukushima. And that even small amounts of rain can generate very large, can produce very large quantities of water. 1 inch of rain in a 1,000 square foot roof gets about 600 gallons of water. You got 10 inches of rain, that's 6,000 gallons of water. You store it, you clean it, you purify it, have it tested. In most cases, testing is not necessary. It's the water is more drinkable than the water that comes from the municipality, because of all of the chemicals, hormones, estrogens, pesticides, herbicides. They're already entering into the water stream, and they're not tested for, not taken into account, including dioxin. And that water, for 6,000 gallons, is enough for a family of 3 or 4 with water conservation things. So you're getting into your beginning of a sustainable system. Now, food happens this way. We get our food. Most anybody that listens to this, they don't believe it. And I ask the question. I give you a food. I give you a hint. Let me give you a hint of where the food comes from. And I hear folks saying the supermarket. Well, it's not 3 letters. I said 3 letters, not 3 letters. Well, food comes from oil. And there are 4 gigantic plants, chemical plants in Florida, that generate vast amounts of nitrogen fixing ammonia. There was a process that was discovered just before the war, and a catalytic process, and that generates the fertilizers that go into the soil, nitrogen fertilizers. And 99% of our that we generate from oil, more chemistry, we generate the pesticides and herbicides. Again, processes that started with chlorination of chemicals, also before the war in Germany. And the process goes into the fields, carry on into the fields. We put all of those chemicals and the nitrogen. We add some phosphorus and some potassium, NPK. We add those. Then what we take out from the fields is what we call food that needs plants to grow. Need about some for the growth of the cells and the division of cells. They need about 52 different minerals: manganese, magnesium, zinc, many minerals that need to be present for the cells to reproduce and grow healthy and strong and all that. Now, from all those 52 minerals, we put nitrogen, which is not a mineral, we put potassium and we put phosphorus, which those are necessary. And everything else comes out from the fields, goes into our biodigestive system, goes again into that sewer, goes into the river, lake, and stream, and never goes back. This is wrong again. And that the way to fix that is to reestablish the nutrient cycle. The waste that we produce and the biological waste that we produce, learn how to compost them, learn how to learn what a compost toilet is, and compost that and put it back into the land. Now, at this point, everybody that is listening to this says, well, Dr. Tony, you're dreaming. And I'll say, I'm not dreaming. A group of engineers and architects at the University of British Columbia, they came out and they just recently designed and opened a new building on campus that's 30,000 square feet. So anybody that does not know what 30,000 square feet is, 100 feet by 100 feet by 3 stories high. And they opened it, and that system is not connected to the sewer. Let me repeat this. It's not connected to the sewer. And that has compost toilets. And believe it or not, it's legal. It's legal. So we can...
Let me interrupt you for a moment. The system of zero emissions farming that Father Godfrey Nzamajo of the University of California at Davis and of the Sankai Foundation in Benin, Africa, has created for homes, for office buildings, takes all of the waste. Of course, on a farm you have agricultural waste, you have animal waste, you have human waste. In a building you wouldn't have the agricultural waste unless you're also growing food in the building, which every building can and should do. It takes all of the waste and it digests it, it composts it, and pulls off the methane, which is naturally produced in the composting process. That methane is then recycled to provide the energy that creates air conditioning, cooking, drives or powers cars and tractors and over-the-road vehicles to distribute the food that they produce. It eliminates the reliance on fossil fuel without anything being trucked to the building or the farm, without anything being piped there, without any dangerous transportation issues like the ethanol that overturned and kept us from having dinner together when we were in Texas. This is a safe, effective method which goes one step further than the already advanced sewage treatment that you're talking about at the University of Texas, which is actually not advanced at all, people, which is actually ancient. Don't you think that the ancients knew how to take care of their waste? Of course they did. It's we who forgot in the joy of a technology that was linear rather than web-based. In Queen Victoria's time, a gentleman named, if I remember correctly, Francis Crapper invented the modern toilet.
Yes, that was John Crapper. Yes,
and that one event did more to stop infectious diseases than all the vaccines in history. And by the way, Dr. Rima, Dr. Tony, while you're talking about what you're talking about, we were bringing up the slides from Father Godfrey's presentation to us. And putting them on the screen, and they were the right slides for what you were talking about. So the webinar continues, this intentional webinar that we're having today.
The point that I was making, yes, of course, handling infective material like human waste better is very helpful, and vaccines are not helpful at all. But the point is that the system was designed to get it away from the producer, the bottom end of the human being, Queen Victoria didn't have a chamber pot anymore. She had a toilet which flushed the waste away, but there was no thought where the waste went, and we lost the energy potential of the waste. And in a biologically effective system, waste, human and agricultural and animal waste, not only provides energy, as I have talked about, but it provides a nutrient return to the soil once the dangerous pathogens have been biologically inactivated, which is what happens. And so now you're returning the nutrients to the soil, and you're creating a cycle. Part of what's wrong, let me summarize a thought here, and then Dr. Tony, I'd love you to comment on it. And if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. But part of the problem is that we have linearized life, when life, in fact, is designed by its own rules to operate in a cycle.
Great point. Great point. It's linearization is a great idea. It's we have been forced for whatever reasons, historical, social, political, whatever reasons, our own demeanor, our own low self-respect. I point that out quite a bit. Humans suffer from a crisis of low self-respect. We have disconnected. We are disconnected. We think ourselves as individuals that are supreme and disconnected from what surrounds us. And while we do this, we keep breathing the oxygen that we need and the air that we need and drinking the water, and discounting those as not being part of the process. And we say just me, and the rest, the water that we drink or the food that we eat, just give me that, extend your arm and grab that sandwich or whatever, and never mind where it comes from and where it goes. And that's the linearization that you were talking about, that you just spoke of, and that's the disconnect that we have. We've been disconnected from the world that surrounds us. So we need to reconnect. We need to make that connection again to what surrounds us. In 1850 or so, there was a general, I forgot his name, that we sent to China when at the beginnings of our imperialistic ambitions in the U.S. And he stayed at the hotel. This is a true story, not making it up. This is a true story. And he stayed at the hotel, and he noticed that if he stayed alone in a room, he would pay full fare. If he put a comrade in there, he would pay half. If he puts two, a total of three in the room, he would pay a quart, 25%. And if he had four people in the same room, then they would pay zero. How does this happen? How do you go to a hotel and you stay the night and with 3 solid meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner? How is this possible? Well, the Chinese, with their infinite wisdom at the time, that they most likely have forgotten by now, in just a short period of a decade or two, they would come in the middle of the night, 4 or 5 a.m., and take what they call the night soil. And the night soil is human waste. They would take it out. There's two ways of composting night waste or night soil or human waste. One is aerobic, it needs oxygen, and the other one doesn't. They use the process, which is a fermentation, the same process that Dr. Rima that you were talking about, the songhai, which is used to
and that's what we're showing.
In fact, this process was learned by Father Godfrey from the Chinese. Go ahead.
Right, and by the way, as you're talking, the image that's on the screen is actually a shot of the waste to wealth, animal waste used for fish farming. It's one of the slides on Father Godfrey's presentation. So we have the spirit of Father Godfrey with us as well today. Some of these charts have been very interesting, and if either of you would like to go on to the Ustream feed and just mute it, you can watch that as well. And folks, just to make things less confusing, you are listening to the Dr. Rima Reports, a regular weekly internet radio program featuring Dr. Rima E. Laibow, co-host Ralph Fusatola. Our guest is Dr. Tony Pereira, the expert in sustainability that we are so fascinated talking to today. You can listen to us and watch. We're experimenting with bringing some video onto this at www.healthfreedomportal.org. Health Freedom Portal. You can also go to our other web pages and get to that page if you need to. Dr. Rima.
Well, actually, Dr. Pereira, I want to find out how the Night Soil bought them a free hotel stay.
We kept everybody in suspense, and this is the discussion. This is the talk, and we need to talk about this. And I'm so pleased to talk with you all on these, or anybody, and talk with anybody on these things, because if we allow the others to talk about the superfluous things that are discussed in the media today, whatever that is, and that lead nowhere, that puts us in the situation that we are in. We need to regain that battle. We need to win that battle and bring the conversation to our side. No. I'm so pleased about that. Now the Chinese, so they went out with the Night Soil and composed it in an aerobic process, a fermentation process, and put it in the soil, grow their vegetables, make the food for their hosts and for their guests, and go to the market and make a buck. And they all could live until in the recent years after the war, in this process of fixing nitrogen from the air with the hydrocarbons and the catalyst that was iron was discovered first by Fritz Haber in Germany, and gentleman that profited from the war, and also the terrible things to his own. He was a Jew, and he was allowed to stay in Germany because he was so brilliant, and he was one of the creators of Zyklon B and other things like that. So terrible things to his own people. Very, very, very twisted behavior that human beings can have many times in history, and we keep forgetting that. So
can I interject something? You made a comment that I have to disagree with, if I may. You said he did terrible, terrible things to his own people. Everyone is our own people, whether we are Jewish or Jain or Christian or Muslim. If you, for instance, work to create a death implement like Zyklon B, you're killing your own people, even if the co-members of your group are not targeted. That's part of the web. We are all related. We are all our own people. Forgive me for interrupting you, Dr. Tony, but
not a problem. I take your comment totally. It was most, or a large percentage, was 6 million were say his own. I don't know how to say it in a better way. But many others were not. Many others were not, and they were Germans. They were Germans that were considered, and Poles and Czechs and any other country, and French and many other countries, and Russians that where the Germans, the Nazis put their boot on.
My point is a little bit different. My point is that to linearize group affiliation is to say, I belong to this group, you don't, so you're not my people. And I know that's not what you meant, but I think that we have to take back the language.
No, that's right. I was trying to. Yeah.
We have to. I know you well enough to know absolutely you were not saying that, but we do that all the time. We say, well, he did it to his own people. No, he did it to all of us.
To people, yeah, he did it to people, yeah.
And so
any color, any race, anybody that didn't fit the mold, didn't fit the exact color and whatever they thought it was the perfect thing, you know.
Exactly. I'm white.
It's hateful. This is not the conversation today, but I was in Germany. I visited. My parents took me there to see those camps, and I was very young, and I was incredibly unprepared. I knew about the war and had read about the war, but I was totally unprepared to see what I saw. I just say this, and we go back to the Chinese story. I couldn't speak for months. Seriously, I couldn't talk to anybody, not even my own parents. I couldn't speak with anybody for months. So deep the impression and the shock it was from the atrocities and the morals or amoral situations that occur in what's called human civilization. I knew about Germany. I knew about Goethe. I knew about Mozart, Beethoven, and all those illustrious Bach and many others. And I couldn't believe it. But the Chinese.
I want to just say one more thing about this particular topic. I'm white. My parents were Jewish, so I could claim those affiliations. But to me, my brothers, the Hutu, killed my brothers, the Tutsi. I've never been to Rwanda. It doesn't matter. Those are my people, and they're your people too. You don't speak their language, you've never had their foods, you've never experienced their dances, their culture, you have no idea how their society is organized in a meaningful depth understanding. It doesn't matter. My brothers, the Hutu, killed my brothers, the Tutsi. Understand that, because if you delinearize and deconstruct the separatist way of looking at the world, then you can start finding and participating in the solutions to the problems we're facing. Would you agree or disagree with that, Dr. Tony and Ralph?
Well, the image on the screen is of that image you chose of Liberty on the barricades with the banner, the tricolor, and it says on it, the battle of all mothers. But of course it's the battle of all fathers as well, and the battle of all people who are concerned about any future for humanity.
Right.
I totally agree. And this could be an entire new discussion, and it should.
Indeed.
And it should. And how deep the roots are of this insanity. That's this crazy situation that
we
predicted find ourselves in. This is complete madness.
Predicted a long time ago. A long time ago, predicted. In many ways, going back to that book, that book that Mises wrote back in the 1950s, Human Action. That last couple of paragraphs I talked about earlier in the program, it ends with a sentence that says, these are the constraints on human action. If people choose to ignore those constraints, they will not abolish the constraints. Instead, they'll wipe out humanity. And that's the last phrase in the book. And the choice is quite stark, and it's been a choice that people saw a half a century ago. In fact, I remember Mises, very, very elderly Mises, spoke to a group of us in 1971 in Philadelphia. Actually, it was a very interesting group of young people at that time. A couple of them became very famous authors later on. One of them became a congressman. Another was the son of a Nobel Prize winner, that sort of crowd. And very elderly Mises walks into this group of hippies with his elderly wife, and she looks at the people and she says, long hair, no long hair. Well, be it as it may, he spoke to us all and he gave a warning in 71. He said, you are eating your seed corn. But he said it in an Austrian accent, which I will not try to repeat. And that's stuck in my head ever since. You are eating your seed corn. And that seems to me exactly what's been going on.
Dr. Fusitala, was this the same von Mises of stress and strain?
I'm not sure. I think he had a brother who was also a scholar. He's the Austrian economist and philosopher. That's his brother. That's his brother. Yes. A very, very accomplished family. This Mises was the nemesis of Keynes, and of course had to flee Austria when the Nazis moved in. He was both Jewish and in favor of freedom. So, and he ended up living in the United States, where he taught a whole generation of free market economists and debated, and Milton Friedman and people like that sort of followed in his footsteps in some ways. But anyway, these are the constraints, and the economics are a constraint also. And that's a constraint that changes with time because technology changes. Solar cells, for example, are about to get much cheaper, much more available. And that's a very big game changer. I mean, that to me, the biggest game changer of all is changing the energy equation.
That is about 50% of the energy that we get from the sun it's in the form of photons that can be converted into electrical energy.
Right.
By the photovoltaic process. Another 40-some%, it comes in the form of infrared and heat that we feel. Just extend the hand out to the sun, and wow, this is hard, nice and warm. That can be gathered and also concentrated and put into that heat can be converted into heat a gas or heat a liquid. That can go into what's called a thermodynamic process, and it transforms that heat into mechanical energy, and that mechanical energy in form of rotation or whatnot can be transformed again a third time into electrical energy on the generator. And that process has been done in recent years by another invention for the mechanical conversion of heat into mechanical energy. Is a Scottish engineer by the name of Stirling, and some companies have devised Stirling engines that are the Stirling cycle in thermodynamics is very, very efficient. It's one of the most efficient cycles that we know of, and can be used with very low energy temperature gradients. That means you don't need to have a large amount of temperature in order to produce mechanical work, and that mechanical work in turn can be converted to electrical energy. Now this process competes very, very, very favorably with photovoltaics in terms of economics, and it is also very easy to install, very durable. It lasts a very, very long time, very reliable, and there you are. There's other forms of accomplishing the same thing. Either way, one way it's called solar thermal energy, and until recent years it was used in a different way by heating a fluid. You also can use in very, very solar plants. Now, what happens is that you don't have to have you don't have to have. In the past, you needed large installations in order to be economically feasible. Now you don't need to. You can do a 2 kilowatt, 3 kilowatt, 5 kilowatt system that is fairly small and can be installed in a home and power a home. But again, I still go through the process. It goes through the process of energy auditing, finding out what the uses are, finding out what your loads are, reduce those, and then use the energy that the net balance at the end. So in the food system, we use. Let's go back to the food system. We again use the resources that we have in a totally inappropriate way.
It's so funny. It's so funny. You read my mind. I was just about to say to you, well, what about the food system, Dr. Tony? Go for it.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it focused and
that magic wand.
So we have that it's unbalanced. We are extracting things from the soil, and again, we cannot create things. We only can modify, transport, convert things from one place to another, from one form to another. That's all we can do. In the process, we can make things increasingly difficult for life, and we can make things increasingly difficult for ourselves, to the point that life no longer is possible for us or for other creatures. Eliminating life altogether, I don't think it's possible, because it's beyond ourselves. Life is a force that is not human. It's beyond human. It's not possible. It comes from someone else. It comes from a different place in the universe. It's not our accomplishment. It's not our creation. We didn't create it. But we can make things to a point that we shoot ourselves in the foot, and we make no place for ourselves. That we steam up because the temperatures increase. We now know that we have global warming and accelerating at a rapid pace, and we are exterminating species already. We are in the sixth greatest species extinction in history, in the fossil history of the planet. So in that process of the food system, we're taking from the soil, we pass it through our gut, we put it up into the water, it goes into the sewer, goes into a lake, into the stream. There it goes into another biological process that may at some point become food and source of energy for other creatures, for other things. But from the soil, we are eliminating vital components, magnesium, zinc, selenium, things that are vital to DNA expression and to the reproduction of cells, that we are not getting, and that we have to revert to supplementation in order to get the appropriate amounts every day, because we broke this nutrient cycle that the Chinese were doing for 4,000 years, and that the Indonesians were doing for thousands of years. Some places in Africa they were doing, some places in Brazil, in the rainforest, have been doing this for thousands of years. The Inca, the Maya, the Aztec, been doing this for the Native Americans in our own soil, in our own country, and that we should have listened to them. And instead we in our European wisdom pass promulgations and saying those people are barbarics, just exterminate them and make them slaves or whatever. So this is a whole new view of history, of human history, and a new rethinking of that. It's an integral view that we have to take an approach. Now, so we covered energy, we covered food, we covered water.
Well, we haven't covered.
And we're still branding that wand, magical wand.
Food. Okay, so I live in a climate with a severe winter, or in the Atacama Desert of Chile, where it's very, very hot, or in Manitoba, where I can't grow. My fields are under, several feet of snow in the winter. How do I get food without a devastating waste of energy to get that food to me? How do I get a nutrient-rich diet to sustain me all year long?
That's a fantastic question. That's all of this varies from place to place. In places like Canada, the growing season is very short, very small. I know people in Alaska. They're growing vegetables 2-3 months a year. In the rest, they have to rely on either hunter-gatherer types of living, and store food for the winter. And if they don't want to buy food that comes from the store.
I've got another answer. And that is, take a closet, take a piece of your bedroom, a piece of your living room, and create a growing center inside during the severe winter months using square foot gardening or intensive urban agriculture techniques. Use heirloom seeds, 15 minutes a day. You'll have an endless abundance of fresh fruits, fresh vegetables in order to feed your family. A square of about 4 feet by 4 feet, properly used with rotation of crops and so on, will give you fresh, nutrient-dense food every time you finish with a particular plant. When you eat the broccoli and the plant is finished, the leaves and the stem become part of the nutrient enrichment of the soil. You add easily available amendments every time you plant a new plant, and in a very short time you have the kind of soil that is supplying the kind of minerals that supply life to your cells and your DNA and give you the vitality that you need. Does that supply chicken? Does that supply eggs? Well, the likelihood is that most people are not going to have laying hens in their apartments. But the point is that food growing, use windowsill gardening, use any of the many exquisite techniques that are currently available, easily available.
And let's not forget community gardening. I mean, people can keep chickens on the roof of the apartment building, can't they, if they do it together? They keep pigeons. So it is possible, even in an urban environment, to do that.
It would be a good idea not to do that where radiation is...
Well, that's another issue. We've waved a magic wand. Remember, we've waved a magic wand, and that issue, I guess, is not there right now.
What are we doing? No, I don't know. Who's in charge of magic
the
wand?
chart I have on the screen right now, Dr. Rima, what I have on the screen right now is that little chart we made of the weaponized world, of the globalist genocidal agenda, showing how the GMOs, the toxins, the radiation, and the other factors were all interrelated. And that brings me to tell you that we have 12 minutes before the end of the program. This has been an extraordinary...
Thank you. Dr. Tony, let's talk about radiation. What do you know about the true remediation of radioactive threat? Let's talk about the fact that the laws of physics do not get suspended. But do you know of technologies, even theoretically, which are capable of remediating radiation at the nuclear level? People have to understand it's not just a matter of scooping it up. It's a matter of getting rid of the radioactive damage, because the half-life, for instance, of uranium-238 is 4.5 billion years. The half-life of plutonium-239, which is a product of uranium in a nuclear reactor, is 250,000 years. Do you know of any way to remediate nuclear ionizing radiation danger at the nuclear level?
That is not, to my knowledge. There's not. Once the elements become unstable and they become uranium, plutonium, and those have been created in the fourth generation star. Again, we are sons of stars, like Sagan was proclaiming decades ago. We're all cooked up inside of a star, and this is a fourth generation star element. So that means the star went 4 times into a supernova, and then the elements condensed again and into a star that started again and again and again, 3, 4 or 5 times. And once it gets into heavy elements like those, they are very difficult. To our knowledge, there is no pressure, there is no temperature, there is zapping them or cooking them or doing the things that we know how to do to transform other things, short of putting them again back into a reactor and bombarding them with gamma rays and intense radiation. and try to transmute them again and break them up, break the nucleus
One of the
again.
Dr. Tony, one of the technologies, Dr. Tony, one of the technologies we've been exploring is something called Brown's gas. And the contention with the Brown's gas people is that not only does this special type of plasma strip electrons, but in some circumstances it seems to be able to strip protons and reduce a radioactive isotope down to the non-radioactive version. Now that's the claim.
That may we're looking. It's brown gas is usually used in a different context than radiation.
Well, it is used for radiation, though.
Is if we are? We're going to assume for just a second that is possible. We are talking about elements that are already concentrated that we can manipulate at the distance, because all these are radioactive, and we have to be very careful the way we approach those things, otherwise we're going to fry ourselves. That's what happened to, sadly, Marie Curie found out, and the radiation is lethal, even in very small amounts, and very, very dangerous. So, but supposedly we can put in that brown gas process, whatever it is, and strip in sort of a plasma. We're talking about concentrated quantities that we can manipulate. What happened in Fukushima is different. It's another process in nature. It's called entropy. And things are dispersed in very, 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 very small amounts. Like what again, Carl Sagan would say, a Google, minuscule amount of matter. It's impossible to go with a pincet and pick up every single bit that is being deposited in the dust around the country, around the nation, around the oceans, around the planet, around the northern hemisphere, from any of those disasters in Chernobyl or 3 Mile Island or and right here our own. And most people don't know, Simi Valley is still a Superfund site. They had a reactor in there in the 70s that also had close to a meltdown, and nobody ever knows and discusses that and know about that, how close it was again from a complete meltdown and wiping out a city the size of Los Angeles. It's impossible because of entropy, because those energy has been dispersed to very, very, very small amounts, to pick them up and pass them into a tube with supposedly this hypothetical brown gas type of reaction, or whatever reaction is. Even if we had that reaction, how we would go out and picking up all of the soil, all of the leaves, all of the plants, all of the processes that, because they are absorbed in the tissues of plants, they are absorbed in the tissues of animals, in phytoplankton, in plants and leaves and algae and fungi and all that. We cannot do that. It's reversing entropy.
John Hutchinson and his wife Linda have contacted into the Gulf of Mexico, and according to laboratory analysis, we're able to clarify the water and remove the pollutants using radio frequency. It's a very different application of science. They do have pre and post laboratory results to document that. They've contacted me. They say that they can modify the equipment that did that, and they were in fact ejected from the Gulf Coast by the authorities. They were told that they either were going to be in jail or gone. They've modified that. They're living in Oregon, and they have created, they believe, a shield, a bubble, protective frequency shield for radiation, both radiation that was there and radiation drifting from Fukushima. I have asked for documentation. They sent a document which alleged to reduce the radioactivity substantially of a sample of a mineral called uranite, which contains radioactive uranium and other things. And they sent the data, the analysis of the process, and I sent it to you. Of course, we'd all love to have a technology or many technologies that could, in fact, reverse radioactive decay or change radioactive decay to eliminate the radioactivity of these dangerous materials that, as you say, are everywhere. When you looked at this report, you had some serious questions. Do you believe that even though you had these serious questions to this preliminary report, that this technology is worth playing with, pursuing, that there was anything there as an engineer and as a very open-minded thinker? Would you be interested in pursuing finding out more about this particular technology?
Dr. Tony, are you there? We may have lost our guest, Dr. Rima.
Oh my goodness. Well, can you call him back?
Well, hold on. Let's find out what's going on here. Hold on. I've got the screen up now. That's strange.
Oh, Dr. Tony is writing. He says he can hear us.
Oh, good.
Well, we can't hear you. Oh, okay. What I'm going to, Ralph.
He's definitely not on normally. I think, we only have 4 minutes left in the program.
Yeah, that's a really important question. Let me hang up with you, Dr. Tony, and let me call you right back. Okay?
He's actually, you got to hang him up. I think from your end, you need to hover over. Okay. There you go.
I'm going to call him right
now he's
back.
hung up. All right. Okay. Wow. Well, folks, what an exciting 2 hour. It just zipped by. It always does with this program. There's always interesting things going on. Let me tell you.
Dr. Tony, are you there? Hello?
He should be. It just went dark again. Well.
Okay. He's calling me.
Can't do that. That'll take you both off the line with me, unfortunately.
Write your response to me.
All right. And meanwhile, I'm going to continue. I've been putting up what I think are apropos images, and we've had a number of those. And our programmer, Jeff, created what's called a macro for me, and all I have to do is put my cursor over the image, the thumbnail, and press 2 keys, and it automatically records the image and puts it in front of the camera so that it goes out over our Ustream.tv stream.
Dr. Tony, I'm trying to call you. It does not seem to be working. According to my screen, you are in fact on this call. How frustrating, because I really want you on this call. Let me try one more time. We only have a couple of minutes. Our guest has been Professor Tony Pereira. He is a professor at the University of Texas at Beaumont. He's a web thinker. He's an engineer, and I cannot get you back on right now. Unfortunately, I'm trying. So,
and what you've all experienced today here on the Dr. Rima Reports is the rough draft of a sustainability webinar. This video, this audio, additional information from Dr. Pereira and from Dr. Rima will end up together as an ebook with links to various deeper pieces of information, and it's part of our ongoing effort to really begin to use the social media, the new communications technologies in ways that will make a difference. That's why Rima and Bert are traveling thousands of miles, and that's why we're all here with you every Sunday. Last minute, Dr. Rima, take us out. Take us out.
That's why we need your donations. I'm calling Dr. Tony Pereira, our wonderful guest. We will have him on again. I don't know the answer to his answer to my question. You've been listening to the Dr. Rima Reports. My co-host Ralph Fusatola, JD, has joined me in a fascinating discussion with Dr. Anthony Pereira.
But the answer to that question, Dr. Rima, will be on the webinar version of that we've started creating today on this program. Live internet radio at its wildest, let me tell you. All right.
And by the way, Dr. Tony, please keep the magic wand because you can use it. He says, can you hear me? No, I cannot hear you. So we're going to thank you in semi-absentia. We have our writing communication intact, but Unfortunately, we can't hear you, and you won't be able to give us your final words in person. We will have you back. This has been a wonderful show. We are no longer, you and I, you, my brothers, and you, my sisters, are no longer necessarily controlled by inauthentic authority unless you choose to be. You are free if you choose to exert your freedom. And please donate so we can help continue to put information in for you. That's www.healthfreedomusa.org. Go there, donate, and send everybody you know to www.generalbert.com and get them in the system too.
GeneralBert.com. Thank you, Dr. Rima.
Be free. Be well.
Following freedom's trail, following where the truth leads, we will prevail. Sneaking up on our freedoms, destroying our health, shredding the Constitution, taking away our wealth. But we're the men and women following freedom's trail, following where the truth leads, we will prevail.